Do you ever feel like you're trying to practice gentle parenting, but really you're just permissive? If this is you, I'm going to give you 5 things to stop doing right now so that you can transition out of the permissive spiral and get back to authoritative parenting. Hi, I'm Avital. Welcome back to Hi Fam. This is where I help you build a strong family culture, including all of the mindset, tips, and tricks that you need in order to be the leader that your children need and deserve. I'm here to help you raise resilient kids, create a family life that is built on your values, and to feel great as a parent. Now, don't get me wrong, I love gentle parenting. There is so much I've taken from peaceful parenting, conscious parenting, attachment parenting, ride parenting, simplicity parenting, on and on and on. I've read most of the books, and I actually take so much from them in my own parenting style. In fact, I made a whole video about all the things I love about gentle parenting. So don't misunderstand me. I don't think that this is a bad movement, but I think it has been sorely misinterpreted. And I think that it has suffered from what we called concept creep, where gentle parenting used to mean authoritative parenting, basically. And now it has slipped and slided to mean permissive parenting, where parents are all soft and fluffy and cozy, which is great, but they don't hold any boundaries or expectations, which is not great. For more on that, watch my video, Why I Left Gentle Parenting. But today I want to give you the real practical juice, the things that you should do right now and why. Because I know you're sick of those blurry boundaries and low expectations. You're worried that your child is acting out too much or becoming emotionally manipulative. It's kind of sinful to say it in the gentle parenting sphere, but the truth is that we all want kids who behave well, who are civilized individuals, who are well socialized, who do the things they're supposed to do, like tidy up after themselves and say please and thank you or complete their homework, who don't embarrass us or themselves in public, and who can make and keep friends. But the overly permissive approaches don't lead to these results. Someone recently wrote to me saying, it can't be that permissive parenting is that bad for kids. What's really bad for kids is authoritarian parenting. Parents that are very strict and demanding and controlling and aren't warm and loving. And I hate to break it to you, but the research is pretty clear on this, that actually it's permissive parenting that leads to the worst results, even worse than ultra strict parents. So if we really love our kids, and I know that we all do, then we will make sure we are not permissive parents, that we're not misinterpreting gentle parenting to just mean let it all hang loose. Children of parents who are permissive tend to really struggle regulating their emotions, and they struggle with misbehavior and lacking responsibility and accountability for their actions and choices. I know that's not what you want, so let's get into it. Number 1, stop over empathizing. Empathy is great. We all need a bit of empathy. We all need our parent to care and to show nurture and to show warmth and to show love and to be supportive when something's happened. Whether we skimmed our knee or didn't get the grade we wanted or didn't make the team or a friend was mean to us or our sibling took our blocks. Whatever happened to us, we all want to feel that someone really sympathizes, that someone knows that we're hurting somehow. But the trouble is that permissive parents put way too much emphasis on empathizing, and they over-empathize. It's actually what Gad Saad calls suicidal empathy. Now, he's talking about big macro trends, but even in the micro in our own home, there is a level of empathy that simply enables and encourages emotional manipulation and encourages your child to be emotionally volatile, to not be able to control themselves, to not be able to question their limiting beliefs, their cognitive fallacies, their poor, skewed, biased ways of thinking that lead them to big emotional eruptions. Yes, children differ in temperament. Some are more sensitive and emotive, and some are more stoic and pulled together. But wherever your child is, all children need to learn to master their feelings. There is typically a high correlation between parents who are in more new age woo-woo spaces and learn things like somatic therapies or mindfulness or yoga or all sorts of emotional guidance systems and meditation. And those all have wonderful things. I do some of them myself and I enjoy it. But when you go too far down that approach, when you see all your emotions and all your feelings as the ultimate source of wisdom and intelligence, as if our bodies and our feelings and the thoughts that pop into our mind are always superior, are always correct, are always the truth, capital T, we are actually starting to give all of the onus of control onto our feelings. But feelings are fleeting. Feelings pass. Feelings can sometimes be very tricky. Feelings can sometimes be very fickle. They respond to automatic and subconscious thoughts that we have. If I think it's not fair, I immediately feel outraged and upset and hard done by. But maybe I need to learn to question my feelings. Is it unfair? Actually, was it totally fair? Or is life sometimes just unfair and that's okay? Can I handle it? Can I be generous? Can I be charitable? Can I offer the benefit of the doubt? Can I calm myself down? Learning to question our thoughts and therefore our feelings helps us to feel different feelings. Now, in the gentle parenting world, there isn't much emphasis on coaching children emotionally to overcome negative feelings. There's just a huge emphasis on accepting them, on never suppressing feelings, which is good. We don't want our children to suppress them. We don't want them to just gag themselves and shut down. But we also want them to learn to digest feelings, to handle feelings, and to not let their feelings run the show. It's almost as if every tantrum, every eruption, every meltdown, every upset, every bout of the blues is now centered and platformed and given the stage as if it's the most important thing and as if you should never question whether those feelings are appropriate, helpful, productive. But I think you need to stop doing that. I think we're doing our children a huge disservice by constantly telling them to feel their feelings, to express their feelings, to let their feelings out. Because that's not the only thing you can do with feelings. You can just have a little pity party, have that little bit of empathy that we said, right? Like, oh, that's hard. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, let's have a hug. Here, I can see that's really difficult for you, right? A few moments of validation, of reflection, of support, of understanding, of softness is great. Why not? The trouble is that we get stuck there. We permissive parents just stay there and like, oh, she's feeling sad. Oh, she's feeling shy. Oh, she's feeling afraid. She can't do it. What about feel the fear and do it anyway? You know, I'm no stranger to feeling depression. And when you feel like you're depressed, you're too sad to move, you just can't handle everything. And I know there's a wide spectrum of how clinical or fleeting this might be. But when you feel these feelings, one of the most productive and helpful things you can do to yourself is actually override your impulse to just let it all hang out, to just stay in bed, to forego showering and brushing your teeth and just eat popcorn and Netflix and binge all day. The truth is that the best advice for people in that situation is to get up anyway, to get dressed anyway, to brush your teeth anyway, to try and go to work, and to try and move through the normal functional motions to get yourself back on track. And this is because of a truth that I think the gentle parenting movement misses entirely, which is that our feelings follow our actions. In gentle parenting, we are encouraged to see our children's feelings front and center. That there's no bad child, only a child that's having a hard time. And so we always are encouraged to dig deeper and try and uncover and unearth this full backpack of emotions that our child needs to definitely express fully and potentially explosively and maybe even violently or aggressively in order to get back to feeling equilibrium and centered. As though our child somehow is this weird kind of pump that constantly needs to be emptied of the buildup of emotional digest. Now, I think that's somewhat true for toddlers. And I certainly teach the idea that tantrums in young children and toddlers are a little bit of an emotional backup. They've self-regulated their way through kindergarten all day. And when they get home, they just let it all out. That's normal. And that makes sense to me. But we can't just encourage them to constantly be on this build up, let it out train for the rest of their lives. At some point, as parents, we need to step in and coach them to regulate themselves, to calm themselves, and to rethink the way they're interpreting that situation. That won't be appropriate with a 3-year-old, but it will be appropriate with a 5, 6, certainly 8-year-old, where we want to start seeing children coaching themselves, getting themselves off the ledge of anger, of despair, of upset, of offense, and helping themselves get back into a grounded, centered place. If we teach them to just constantly follow their feelings, then they are going to be at the mercy of something that's quite volatile, something that's also very fleeting, that doesn't necessarily indicate substance. Just because you feel something doesn't make it true. You could feel offended, sad, angry, mad, whatever, any emotion, and it could be because of a misunderstanding or a misinterpretation or because you're projecting. How about we teach our children all of those things as well, rather than just empathizing nonstop with whatever feeling comes up? I want to teach my kids that yes, it's okay to feel angry, sad, whatever. It's human, it's normal, and it's inevitable. But also, it's not an ideal. It's not the thing you should chase. It's not something that you should double down on and exacerbate and accentuate about yourself. We shouldn't put an emphasis or a highlight on whatever our child happens to be feeling by constantly over empathizing, giving it all our attention, giving it words and language and naming it to tame it. And all of those great tactics can go overboard when you are constantly giving your child the feeling that their feelings are the most important thing about them, that their feelings are somehow the driver of the show. If you feel like it, you should do it. And if you don't feel like it, you shouldn't do it. Well, no, sometimes we just have to do things whether we feel like it or not. And that's a really important life skill that I find is missing in the permissive parenting world. I hear permissive parents make excuses for their children why they can't do something because of feelings. But that's putting the feelings in the driver's seat. Oh, he can't come because he's feeling a bit down today. Or he doesn't want to share because he's feeling a bit sad today. Or I'm not going to step in because I see he's feeling really angry right now. The idea is that somehow your feelings can't be overridden, can't be controlled, can't be mastered, and can't be driven by you, the person in the driver's seat. Your logic, your rationale, your higher self, the choices that you make, the control that you have to regulate yourself and to reframe those negative mindsets that lead to negative feelings and eventually behaviors. So if you want your child to feel warmth, give them empathy. Like I say, we're all allowed a pity party. You can feel sorry for yourself for a few minutes or half an hour, but then you've got to pull yourself together and make the right next step. You've got to do the right action that will lead to better feelings in the future. If you want to feel good in this life, you've got to make good choices. You've got to actually do the things like working out or doing the work or meeting the friend or doing the homework or walking the dog or cleaning the house. And that will lead to feelings of productivity and success and fulfillment and meaning. But if you're just driven by feelings and feeling empathy for whatever you happen to feel, oh, I have big feelings that are taking over my body. Oh, you poor thing, then you stay very, very stuck. And those feelings grow and grow in power over you. And you never become someone who is resilient, who can overcome, who can do things despite tough feelings. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell. Number 2, stop obsessing over unmet needs. There's this magical phrase that comes up again and again in parenting forums that are dedicated to gentle parenting. And it's always, what is the underlying need? Now, don't get me wrong. This is a good question to ask. You should ask yourself, is my child really hungry? Are they really tired? Are they too young for this? Is some kind of disability stopping them from being able to handle this? Of course, we do want to be sensitive and aware of our children's needs. After all, we are their caretakers. We are there to nurture them and help them grow. And if they do have genuine, real, unmet needs that they cannot overcome, then sure, that becomes something to contend with, a reason to let them off the hook or to bend the rules or to be really empathic in that moment. But this has become the catch-all phrase that offers excuses for parents whenever their children are misbehaving. Oh, there must be some kind of underlying need. It assumes, wrongly, I think, that all children would behave perfectly all the time and make wise choices and really be respectful and kind if all their needs were met. If children ate well, slept well, had all of their love fulfilled, had special time with their parents, and were intellectually stimulated and had enough sensory input and time in nature and moved their bodies enough, then they would behave like little angels. Now, is there a high correlation between getting your needs met and being able to make good choices and behave well? Of course, but it's a correlation, not a causation. There are also other reasons to misbehave. You could misbehave because you saw a bad influence or because you had a bad idea or because your brain isn't fully developed yet and you haven't yet learned consequences of your actions. You haven't yet learned that if you're disrespectful to people, they don't like that very much and they're not going to be very nice to you about it. Maybe you haven't yet learned that stealing is wrong or that lying is wrong, that it's not okay to hurt people or to be destructive. Always searching for this unmet need is this kind of never-ending goose chase that we parents are on. And yes, as I said, be sensitive to their needs, but also sometimes we have to override our base needs. Sometimes you have to be respectful even though you're hungry. Sometimes it's not okay to steal even though you're tired. Sometimes it's not okay to scream and ruin someone's birthday party even though you feel a bit jealous of them. The unmet need might help you kind of decipher and decode where the behavior comes from, but it doesn't excuse the behavior. And this is a huge mistake I see permissive parents making all the time, is that they permit bad behaviors with the excuse of unmet needs. Listen, even children who are going through really tough things, even traumas, they still need expectations. And no, not all of us are going to get every need of ours met all day, every day for the rest of our lives. And yes, we'll still have to make good choices. I know that you've been tired or PMSing or frustrated or in the middle of a fight with your husband, and you've still needed to pull yourself together and do the right thing. Yeah, it might make you a bit more crabby and you might give yourself a bit more leeway in those days. But the truth is that it's actually important for our children to learn to override some discomfort, some hunger, or some tiredness doesn't excuse us when it comes to bad behavior and poor choices. It also sends us, the parents, into a constant spiral, as if you just looked further, if you just investigated more, if you just thought more carefully, if you were just staring at your child and following them more observantly, if you were just more aware of childhood development, of all of the potential divergencies that your child might have, of their temperament, of their body, whatever, then you would be able to understand and crack the code. You'd get the right supplement, you'd get the right bed, you'd give them the right clothes without the right labels, and then they would magically behave really well. In a way, I think this excuses us parents from doing the hard thing of parenting, which is actually getting in there and correcting bad behaviors. It's actually following through on consequences, having boundaries and having rules and upholding them with authority and leadership. If there's always an unmet need, then we don't really need to do that because our child would behave like an angel if the need was met. I just need to think harder in my head about the unmet needs. Do you see? Number 3, stop letting your boundaries slide. I know, I've seen you in your house. I've seen you telling them 10 more minutes on the screen, but that 10 minutes turns into 30 and then into an hour. I've seen you telling them, no, it's really time for bed now. We're not doing one more book, but then you do 2 more books. I've seen you telling them we are not buying ice cream when we go to the zoo today, only to find yourself walking around with dripping cones of ice cream. How do I know? Because I've been there too. I'm the mother of 5 and I know exactly how hard it is to hold the line, to toe the line on our rules. But here's the thing, when I slip into permissiveness and I let my boundaries slide, what I'm communicating to my kids is, these are negotiable. You don't need to take me seriously. In fact, I lack any integrity. And when I say something, it actually means nothing at all. Why don't you just tune me out or whine at me incessantly and continue negotiating and wear me down? You know, when people in marketing get together to think about packaging for things like cereal or snacks or chocolate bars, one of the things that they try to harness is something called pester power. Yeah, it's the power of our children pestering us, wearing us down, chipping away at our patience until we say, fine, I give up, you could have it. That is what the marketers want children to do to us in the supermarkets, to just pester us until we buy the thing just to get them to be quiet and to buy us some peace of mind. It's this pester power that we empower, we encourage, we actually teach our children to get better and better at pestering us when we constantly cave in with our boundaries, when we constantly move the goalpost slowly and gradually further and further away until they get exactly what they want. And I'm as guilty of this as everyone else, but we have to stop it. This is how we become really weak, not believable leaders. Our word doesn't mean anything. And when you tell them something is going to happen or something isn't going to happen, they know that it's just a question of wearing you down with a bit more whining until they can completely change that reality. So who's really the leader in the household? Who's really in the driver's seat? Who really sets the tone and the rules? This is a really hard one, but we all need to start teaching our children through our behaviors that what we say has weight, it has gravitas, that we don't use our words weakly and cheaply, and that we are not just a punching bag to be pushed and pushed and pushed and swung around until they get whatever they want. Stop letting your boundaries slide. Toe the line. And here's something that's going to help you with that. Number 4, which is stop letting your consequences flop. Yes, I've been here too, where I say to my children, if you guys don't cut that out, there won't be any screen time today. And lo and behold, there is screen time today. Where I've said to my children, you know, if you guys fight incessantly, we're not going on this trip because I don't want to be with kids who are fighting all the time. But of course, we go on the trip. This is yet one more way that we cheapen our words and we make ourselves really easy to ignore because what we say actually never comes to fruition. It's just not true. We're just not very believable as leaders, are we? And this is the crux of peaceful parenting. It's exactly the place where they know that nothing they do will ever get any consequences. The toy won't get taken away. They won't miss the birthday party. They won't miss their screen time. They won't miss dessert. You won't skip the book at bedtime or whatever other consequence you have put up. Look, I'm not a big fan of logical consequences, aka punishments, and I really do take that from gentle parenting, that I'd rather talk to my children and explain why I want them to do something and help them have follow through out of the place of understanding. But there are times when we just need them to listen and to be obedient. I know obedient is like a terrible blasphemous word that we mustn't say, but okay, let's call it cooperative. Okay, collaborative. We need them to work with us. Yeah, there are times when we just need them to respect our authority, where our word just goes, where what we say goes, where they need to listen to the rules, whether they like it or not, whether they understand it or not. And there isn't time or room for negotiation. And so if you combine number 3 and number 4, which is stop letting your boundaries slide and stop letting your consequences flop, you will be well on your way to being an authoritative parent. You can still be warm and fuzzy, and you should be. You should be connected and loving and have all the unconditional love and support and a secure attachment with your kids. What I say, I mean. I'm not going to keep repeating myself or keep changing it or keep adjusting it. And it's not open to negotiation and interpretation. And I will follow through. The truth is, you won't need to follow through all that many times to establish authority. The one time that you really do take away the privilege, the one time that you really do follow through on the logical consequence, the one time that you really say, look, I see that me explaining to you isn't enough for you to understand that this is critical, but I'm not going to let you to just get away with this. This is important that you learn this lesson. And so unfortunately, I am going to need to take away this privilege. And I really would love for you to earn it back with good behavior. You'll do that a few times. And in most cases, children are going to catch up to the fact that you do mean business. You can do it kindly and you should. You could do it respectfully and you should. You could say it with a lot of logic. Like, for example, you might say, look, I see that you think that clearing the dinner table is a perfect opportunity to get giggly and wild and disrespectful. And I see that me asking nicely and explaining to you why it's important isn't getting me anywhere. So here's the deal. From now on, if you don't clear the dinner table with me the first time I ask, we won't be doing a book that night. I'll just have to put you to bed because you're wasting all the time, creating a bad atmosphere, and we aren't going to do something that you love. So I hope that will help you with the external motivation to get this done. Here's the thing. Internal motivation is better. Intrinsic motivation is really great. If you can spike your child's inspiration, if you can appeal to their higher self, to their inner logic, if you can make it make sense to them and they just want to collaborate with you out of the connection they have with you and out of good habits and great rituals and a great family culture and the explanation that you've offered them, awesome. You can do that all day long, but it's not going to always work with every child every time. Sometimes we actually need to attack it from different directions. Intrinsic motivation would be nice. Sometimes we need extrinsic motivation too. Let me put it this way. Most of us drive safely because we have intrinsic motivation to stay safe. We don't want to, God forbid, harm anyone else, cause any damage, or put ourselves in danger. But some people don't care about that, and they don't drive in a measured way because of intrinsic motivation. And for those people, we have speed cameras, we have fines and tickets, we have jail time if they are going to just blast through those rules and put everyone else in danger. So we can't rely on intrinsic motivation alone. It's only going to account for about 80 or 90% in a good case scenario of good choices. There is going to have to be, a lot of carrot, but a little bit of stick sometimes, right? A reason why not to do something is sometimes the consequences. Now, I don't like to use this and I suggest that you use it sparingly, but it is important for our children to know that we are going to get good behavior out of them one way or another. It would be nicer if it was the more pleasant, easygoing, gentle parenting way. But if it isn't, then there are going to be logical consequences until they sit up and pay attention to what we deem as really important life skills and choices and behaviors for them to adhere to. And number 5, stop spiraling in guilt. Listen, there's something about gentle parenting as a movement that leads us to constantly be soul searching. I like the self reflection and self awareness. I like the emphasis on ourselves as a model. I like the idea that we need to self regulate and we shouldn't yell and we shouldn't lose it and we should be gentle and kind and respectful. I like all of that. And I think it's important for parents to apologize when they've made mistakes, to own their choices, to take accountability, and to be really good examples of self regulation and of respect. But it does not behoove us as parents to constantly feel ashamed or spiraling in guilt or do that investigative soul searching that we're doing for our children on ourselves. Where did I go wrong? What did I do? Is it because of my childhood? Is it because of my mother? Is it because of how I breastfed or how I was when I was pregnant? Or what did I say this morning? Right? When your head hits the pillow at night, if you're spiraling and ruminating and questioning and riddled with self doubt, that doesn't actually make you a better parent. It might feel like it does because you're self aware and you're kind of analyzing yourself. And that can be good sometimes, to adjust and course correct when we're making mistakes. But it can also easily lead to analysis paralysis, to really inhibiting almost narcissistic self obsession, where I'm constantly feeling insecure through the lens of my own life. Like, am I a good enough mother? Am I leading a good enough life? Did I do that well? Did I do that right? I think it might be a symptom of living in a digital age where we constantly photograph ourselves and video ourselves and post ourselves and display ourselves. And we're always up for interpretation and judgment and, grading of others. But we also just do this to ourselves, even if you're not on social media at all. I'm going to guess that if you have slipped into the permissive parenting realm, you always feel like you're not doing enough. You're not giving enough. You're not quite where you should be. And all of your children's misbehaviors or issues that they might face are because of you somehow. I once had a parent come to me and say, I think my child's speech delay is my fault. It's because I let them watch too much TV when they were 3. And I said to them, maybe it could be. It's not impossible because too much screen time can interfere with verbal development. But let me ask you something. Do you think that's why Einstein developed a speech delay? Did he, at the age of 4, watch too much Sesame Street and that's why he didn't speak until he was like 4 or 5 years old? Of course not, because TV wasn't invented yet, right? And I just bring this as an example because we sometimes hang our hats on these vulnerable, negative, guilt-ridden hooks. Like, oh, if only I'd have done this, or if only I'd have done that, my kid wouldn't struggle with this. And I think the honest truth is that life is so much more complex and nuanced than we can ever decipher into clean, neat little puzzle pieces that fit perfectly together. Like this equals this. Parenting isn't that smooth equation. There are many different aspects that figure into how your child survives and thrives. And you, as a parent, and the choices that you make are one of them. But it's not the only one. And you also don't really ever know how it influences them. Sometimes people's biggest struggles and their biggest challenges become their greatest strengths, become exactly what shapes them into the wonderful people that they are. Sometimes something that you thought was inevitable, like a delay or a disability, actually would have happened regardless of what you fed them or how they slept. We don't really know. And therefore, it's a bit of a waste of our energy, but it's not just a waste, it's also harmful to us in the present moment. It stops us from being forward looking. They say that guilt and worry is like a rocking chair. It feels like you're moving somewhere, but you're actually just staying in the same place. It actually becomes like this kind of weird massage circle with ourselves where we're constantly spiraling into a vicious cycle of blame and guilt and shame. Now, it's a good idea to be aware of our shortcomings and to apologize for them, but it's a bad idea to be riddled with guilt and constantly ruminating. It's just not helpful. And what's more helpful is to look forward to the next step. What's the next right thing? How can I get back on track? Well, what should I do now, knowing what I know? So I just want to suggest that you practice a little bit of grace, that you forgive yourself your past mistakes, that you are willing and able to do the best you can with what you have now, and that your children really need you to be confident. Children feel safe with a confident leader, someone who's comfortable with their authority, someone who feels like they know what they're doing, who can handle what's on their plate, who has a plan and can move forward. And if you need help building that confidence and creating that plan to move forward, that's exactly what I teach you inside of the studio. Go to highfam.com/studio to join my membership, where thousands of parents worldwide learn how to build a strong family culture. You'll learn how to feel like you are the captain of your ship. You'll learn how to craft a clear and compelling vision for the future. You'll learn how to transfer your values to your children with conviction, how to build family traditions that stand the test of time, and how to establish really healthy family habits that make a wonderful routine for you and make your home your most favorite place on earth. Parenting can be deeply meaningful and enjoyable, but not if we've slipped into a permissive place. That leaves us feeling blurry, out of control, and really fuzzy on what we're doing here at all. And are we doing enough? And is it okay? What I think you might need is a sense of routine, of control, things like a plan, house rules, a vision for the future, and a path to move forward on. That is something that I can help you with. So check it out at highfam.com/studio. Now I need to hear from you below. Which of these 5 things do you need to stop? Do you need to stop over empathizing? Do you need to stop obsessing over unmet needs? Do you need to stop letting your boundaries slide? Do you need to stop letting your consequences flop? Or do you need to stop spiraling in guilt? Let me know in the comments below. Keep on living that high fam life. I'll see you in the next video.